Hello and welcome to another edition of the Shadowcast. I'm Lee, and with me today we have Chris Ball.
Hi.
And Dave Bray.
Hello.
And our special guest today is Louise Joy, the Morbid Tourist.
Hello.
Hello, Louise. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
What we'll do is we will start thinking about the website that you have. And my first question is, what is morbid tourism?
So morbid tourism is kind of like the same thing as dark tourism. So I call myself a morbid tourist because I like to visit these places as a tourist. I'm not necessarily a whole directory of every haunted place in the UK. I just like to share my experiences of visiting places and also kind of advice and guides on how people can visit places themselves. So kind of morbid / dark tourism. Traditionally, it's associated with visiting places associated with death and tragedy. So it sounds quite grim and quite morbid. But in recent years, it's kind of expanded a little bit. So I find a lot of people will go to places like the London Dungeons, which is more kind of fun, gory, or kind of like folklore locations. So for me, I would define morbid and dark tourism these days as just anything spooky. But people kind of have their own opinions. There's all different sides of it. There's like a whole, there's like the darker stuff and there's the lighter stuff. And then you also have graveyard tourism, paranormal tourism. It's like a whole mixture of all different ways that you can explore the spooky side of places, really.
Well, I must say it's a fantastic website. There's all sorts in there, isn't there? Something for everyone, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've tried to kind of vary it. So traditionally it is kind of more about haunted locations, but this year I'm trying to expand a bit more into like magical tourism, because I know a lot of tourism boards are kind of exploring folklore destinations and sacred destinations as well. So I like to have something for everyone, really. And it just mixes it up a bit. It's fun to do lighter things rather than just all the dark stuff all the time.
Well, I would imagine what you do is really good fun.
Yes, yeah. It's weird because it does sound really morbid, but yeah, sometimes like my favorite day out is finding something spooky to do nearby and jumping in my car, learn about the history of a place, and then just trying to like spot a ghost and stuff like that. It's a lot more fun than it sounds.
What do you think attracts people to all things dark and macabre?
I think it's a mixture, really. I think traditionally it was about kind of learning more about life and death and kind of like the unknown, trying to learn more about humanity and why people do things. Like, for example, you have a lot of people visiting different places around London to learn more about Jack the Ripper, because people want to understand, like, first of all, people want to find out who he is and people want to understand why he did the things he did. But I also think it's a way like kind of escapism in a way. Like sometimes you just kind of want to switch off your mind and go to somewhere that can be a bit spooky, or you might go with a friend in the search of hoping to spot a ghost and share that experience with them. So it really varies, but it's quite interesting because although it's called like dark tourism, it's not dark at all. It can be a really fun experience as long as you're respectful. And yeah, people just assume it's always morbid, but it's not.
I went on the Jack the Ripper tour a few years ago. I think there's more than one actually, but
That's quite a few now, yeah.
Yes, of course. And that was really good fun. It was fascinating going to the actual places where these unfortunates were found. Even looking at the old, or what appears to be some old graffiti from the time.
And it's really quite interesting as well because there's no, apart from like graffiti and stuff, there's not a lot of evidence of where we know where the murders happened, but it's not like you can go and see kind of evidence of it. So it's a really kind of interesting side of dark tourism because you have the museum and tours and stuff. So it's a little bit different in that way, I find.
let's get one or two questions from Chris.
Yeah, Louise, just a quick question. Do you know the history of Bodmin Jail and that? And because as you know, have you been to these places? Do you know the history of it and that?
I know a little bit, yeah. Probably not as much as other people, but yeah.
So what history do you know about the Bodmin Jail, if you don't mind me asking?
Yes, so I know kind of like why it was built and how when it was first built is considered to be quite I can't remember the exact word, but it wasn't as bad as other prisons at the time. But I do know it housed some quite notorious inmates as well. And my favourite fact about Bodmin Jail is it's one of the cells was where Derek Okora from Most Haunted was outed as being fake. And these days, the cell has been turned into a public toilet. And there's a little sign when you go in, so you go into the toilet and you can say you've used the Most Haunted toilet. That's my favourite fun fact. It's really random, but yeah, I just love it.
Excuse me, sorry. What about the Stonehenge? Because there's supposed to be a lot of history about that Stonehenge. One said there was aliens that placed them, but what do you believe in that, the Stonehenge stuff?
Well, Stonehenge is a massive mystery. Like, I think the most likely answer was that it was a burial site and that it was kind of built as well to kind of align with the summer solstice and things like that. But I have kind of read into about how the area overall was really like well known to have loads of mysterious experiences. And I think Wiltshire in general is meant to be really good for kind of like UFO spotting. So I'm a massive believer in aliens. So I'd like to believe that there have been kind of like aliens spotted there, like UFO spotted there as well.
Yeah. And you also said something about Yorkshire as well. That was a bit of haunted as well. That's a bit of a haunted place as well. What kind of spirits or ghosts do they have there, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, so Yorkshire is meant to be really, really haunted. You've got obviously York, which is considered the most haunted city in Europe. You know, that has kind of really traditional ghost stories like the Roman soldiers that were spotted walking through the floor in the Treasurer's house. And then you've got the Golden Fleece, which is a pub which is home to, I think it's 5 or 6 ghosts. So York is meant to be really, really haunted. And it's just the type of place that you walk around and it just has a spooky feel about it. But I find Whitby as well, that's really haunted and interesting. A lot of people overlook Whitby and go straight to York and forget, you know, there are places around Yorkshire as well, other than just York.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question about Whitby as well. So, yeah. So what kind of ghosts do they have in Whitby then, Louise?
So you've got there's a pub in Whitby. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's I think it's home to 3 ghosts. And way back in the day, it was supposed to be so haunted that the landlord bet people they could win £10 if they stayed overnight, the full night, and no one ever did because they were too like spooked out by all the spirits in the pub. Yeah. So, and of course, it's got the associations with Dracula as well. So that's quite good, quite fun for that.
Okay. Thank you for that, Louise. Back to you, Lee.
Thank you, Chris. Louise, can you tell us about the Morbid map?
Yeah, so I launched my Morbid map in February the 13th. So it's basically a Google map where I've saved all my favourite haunted and spooky and magical locations around the UK. It's a little bit different than a standard map because it's handpicked by me. So there's like loads of places that I've visited before that I thought were interesting, but probably not worth the journey. So this is a map where it has 50 pins. I think it's 55 now, actually. All kind of varied. You've got folklore spots. You've got like mysterious places like Stonehenge. You've got the Golden Fleece in York, and each pin has a little bit of information about each place as well. So it has kind of like a brief overview, so you can kind of, I think the Golden Fleece, the first line is something about, you know, York's most haunted pub, home to 5 ghosts. And then if you're interested, you can scroll down and learn a bit more about the locations. It has opening times and top tips for visiting, why I think it's worth visiting, and a bit more information. But it was a bit of like a funny one, really, because I wanted to make sure I didn't put too much information in, because it's you know, it's a Google map. People aren't going to be scrolling through like blocks of text on the map when they're out on the go. But I also wanted to share enough information that people didn't need to like look elsewhere. They could find everything they needed on the map. So yeah, that's why I created it. And yeah, I've had a lot of interest in it so far. It's been really good, and I've been slowly adding more and more locations since it went live last month. So yeah, it's been a really fun project.
Yes, yeah, I imagine it was, and it's really nice just to have the ease of looking at a map, especially if, for example, you're going on holiday to a certain area. You can have a look at this map, identify where you might spend a couple of hours.
Yeah, because there's so much information online for like haunted places and spooky places, but it takes so long to research it all, and you'll find kind of so many pubs will claim to be the most haunted pub. So it's like, how do you know which ones are genuine? So yeah, it's nice to kind of like nail it down a little bit.
Dave, could we have one or two questions from you at this point?
Louise, so going back to the concept of dark tourism, how far back has this sort of been around, the idea of doing dark tourism?
Yeah, so it's actually been around for centuries, although it didn't always have a name. So you could consider like way back when people used to go to public executions, like families used to go and like watch people being hanged for just like a fun family day out. And they didn't quite realize it at the time, but that is actually a form of dark tourism. But the term itself wasn't actually coined until I think it was 1988. I think I've got the date here somewhere. It was 1996 the term was actually coined, and then that's when people started to realize that dark tourism is actually a form of travel. And yeah, it's just kind of like grown and got more and more popular since then, really.
Obviously a lot more sinister, as you say. There's probably people's idea of enjoyment was for a Saturday afternoon was probably a bit different to what it is like now.
But it was the norm back then. Like, I guess people didn't really think of it as that morbid because it was just so normal.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of grow up in that sort of like a darker sort of world, and what was acceptable as far as like executions obviously were obviously a lot more common, and the actual offence, you didn't really have to do much to actually get sort of quite severe sort of punishment as you would do now. So I mean, going back to some of your experience, obviously you mentioned about York and places like that, but how would you have an idea of like how many different sort of places you visited would you consider like being like haunted or morbid?
I think probably since starting the Morbid Tourist, there's been probably about 200 places I've visited and ticked off, and that's kind of a whole range of places. That's like haunted places, like folklore spots and stuff. But I did kind of like, I've grown up visiting these places as well. Like when I was younger, I used to go to the London dungeons and do the ghost bus tour around London. So it's been like probably a lot more than that if I was going to sit down and count them all. But it's been like, yeah, really varied.
And obviously reputation is different from your own experiences. So from reputation of those which are got the best reputation of being haunted, would you say, of the 200?
In terms of most haunted, I would probably say either Bodmin Jail in Cornwall or Zach Baggins Haunted Museum in Las Vegas. Yeah, they were probably the two places that I kind of thought were the most haunted and had the most kind of spooky haunted objects. But there have been like other places that have just been not necessarily super haunted, but just kind of that eerie feeling when you visit.
So that was your experience, but would you say obviously your experience may be different to the reputation? So are they the same places that have got the reputation, or is there other places that have got a reputation in particular?
I would say other places I've been, yeah, probably, but there are kind of other places around the UK that I haven't managed to tick off my list yet, unfortunately.
I mean, I think one of them I've seen on your website is Jamaica Inn. So have you actually you stayed there? And obviously, did you have any experiences when you were there?
Sadly, I didn't, no. But it was really interesting. The last time I stayed there, we stayed in room 5, which is meant to be one of the most haunted rooms. And people believe that it's haunted by a little girl. Some people said that it's a little girl called Hannah, but it has been not necessarily debunked, but people have said there's been no kind of record of a little girl called Hannah staying there. But even despite that, people still leave letters for the ghost when they visit. So you'll find like teddies and gifts for her, and people will leave letters talking about the experience they had in their room. So it was really kind of eerie walking in and opening the wardrobe and finding just this like box of teddies and like spooky letters. But yeah, that's quite interesting, because even though it has been like, it is a haunted room, but the ghost of Hannah has been debunked, but people still kind of leave gifts there. So it's really interesting that people still believe that.
I think for me personally, I think older places definitely, especially if you stayed overnight, it takes a bit of time. I was thinking of like places I stayed when I was younger, my grand's cottage in the middle of nowhere in Cornwall or something like that. It's been quite an sort of an atmospheric, spooky experience, me personally.
Yeah, and I find some places, like, even if you don't kind of have a paranormal experience, you still get that feeling. Like, you can walk into a place and be like, oh, this is like really spooky. It feels really eerie and stuff, and that's quite fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Obviously, your website details many of your accounts of your trips to various places. Could you tell us a bit about your visit to, and you may have to correct me here with the pronunciation, De Lap Abbey with Most Haunted?
Oh, yes, Delapre Abbey.
Delapre.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. Like, I didn't know how to, I had to Google to find out how to pronounce it. Yeah, it's just kind of like this old abbey in Northampton, and it's one of those places that I found on the map and realised that was close by to me. And kind of Most Haunted these days, they still kind of do episodes, but I think it's all online now. But they also have a thing called Most Haunted Experience, and it's their team members run paranormal investigations around the UK, which you can book onto. And sometimes like Yvette Fielding does join them, but this is kind of like I just booked on out of curiosity, really. But yeah, that was really interesting. We had like some weird cold spots when we walked around the building. I didn't kind of hear it personally, but there was, when we were in the nuns corridor, there was a lady a bit further up that heard growling in her ear, which was really spooky. And then kind of it wasn't a spooky experience, but I like to tell the story anyway. We went in one room and I could smell this really strong perfume, and no one else could smell it, but it was kind of really, really strong that you could taste it at the back of your throat. And I kind of like, I wasn't really sure. I asked anyone else if they'd smelt it, and they hadn't. So I went back to the Abbey a couple of weeks later because I wanted to visit it in the day and learn more about its history and take some pictures. And I walked into the room again and I smelled the noise, and I smelled it again. And I realised it was just kind of like an air freshener that people would put in there. I guess like the cleaners or whatever to keep it smelling fresh. And I thought, I'm so glad that I went back at a second day and found that out myself, because if I hadn't have done that, I probably would have assumed that that was something paranormal. So I was really, really happy that I did my research there. So it just goes to show, like, it's worth, just because you hear a noise or smell something, it doesn't always mean it's paranormal. It's worth investigating it further to double check.
Definitely. And really, we're looking for answers. And sometimes that answer will be, this place may not be haunted. And in a way, that's just as valuable, is it not, as a positive outcome?
Yeah, I agree. But you also have to remember everyone has different experiences. Like, I would love to be able to prove the existence of ghosts. Like Bodmin Jail, for example, I've been back a few times now and I haven't experienced anything yet. But I kind of think to myself, how many, because Cornwall's quite far from me, but how many times would I have to go back to be able to experience something? How many times have I kind of done a ghost tour there and then driven home the next day and found out the ghost tour the following evening, had loads of experiences? So yeah.
Do you believe that only certain people can experience the other side?
Not necessarily. I feel like some people are more open to it and susceptible to it. I'm very open to it, but I've never felt or seen anything, sadly. I think it also kind of depends on the situation that you're in. I've been on investigations before and I've done kind of like table tipping, and I've always found that I find that to be more successful when you've got a lot of believers with you, and people kind of have that energy and they're kind of like, you know, really awake and stuff. I've done table tipping at the end of an investigation when it's like 3 a.m. and everyone's just really tired and can't be bothered, and, you know, nothing happens. So I think, yeah, I think some people can be more open to it, but I don't think you necessarily have to be. I think anyone could probably experience it if they were just kept their mind open.
What do you think might be happening there with table tipping or table tilting? What do you think is actually going on?
Well, when you think about it that way, it kind of feels like it's just a ghost coming over and shaking a table beneath your fingertips, right? Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think it's definitely something to do with energy. And I definitely, like, I can't see how it can be any other explanation. It's like when you have when you do Ouija boards and everyone puts a finger on an upturned glass. I know some people have tried to explain it, but for me, I don't understand how that can be, just unless it's someone faking it. I don't understand how that can be anything but paranormal.
No, I mean, we could talk for a whole hour about the Ouija board. It's a fascinating subject, and I think there's lots of psychology going on, isn't there? It's not necessarily just about the physicalities of what you're doing. It's maybe, as you suggest, it's placebo. It's maybe what people think is going to happen increases the chances of that coming to fruition.
Yeah, and some people say it could be your subconscious. You don't realize you're pushing it, but you are.
Definitely. Yes, we've practiced the Ouija board a few times to varying degrees of success, it must be said.
So what's happened when you've practiced it? Anything like really, really spooky happen, or?
I think as much as anything, just the fact that the glass was moving around seemingly of its own accord. Of course, there was always at least 2 fingers on the glass at any one time. I suppose ultimately what you would want to see would be to see the glass move without any kind of human physical interaction. We didn't get that, but just the fact that it was moving around so rapidly makes you wonder what's going on. It could be something to do with the subconscious.
Yeah, I had it once when it was moving really rapidly, but it was also kind of spinning around. And I think there was 4 of us at the time, and we each kind of just had one finger on it really lightly, and it was kind of twisting in a way that it was really awkward to keep our fingers on. And for me, I was like, how can someone be doing that? Like, it was so awkward to try and do it ourselves. Yeah, it just really blew my mind.
What do you say to those who would suggest that involvement in the Ouija board is an evil and or dangerous thing to do?
I think it's fair enough that people think that. My mum used to like always warn me about using Ouija boards when I was growing up, and she used to be really passionate about it. She never used to say it was evil, but she would just be like, "Oh, you don't want to mess around with that." And it always made me think that maybe she had used it at some point and something weird had happened and she didn't want to tell me. But I think there are ways to do it as long as you're safe. There are kind of like protection spells and like things that you can do beforehand to open up the Ouija board and close it afterwards, as long as you've done your research and you're safe about it. Yeah, I think it's okay, but there's still that kind of like little fear, isn't there? Like, who knows what could come through.
Opening up a Pandora's box or some sort of portal. You've also been, amongst many other places, to Hellfire Caves.
Yeah, the Hellfire Caves are probably one of my favourite days out, just because it's something a little bit different. It's underground, even though they're like man-made caverns. Yeah, it's just like this really nice little place in the countryside. They've got like a nice little cafe on site, and they do like fun experiences over Halloween as well. And it's perfect on like a hot day like this to just go underground and cool down a little bit. But yeah, it's like I've been a couple of times when it's been, you know, the school holidays and it's like sunny outside and you've got loads of kids running about and everyone's happy. And the deeper you go in, you'll find that some areas are like completely pitch black, and you'll go around a corner and find out that you're completely by yourself, and it just feels like really, really eerie and like there's no one around for miles.
Yes, there's something instinctively unnerving about caves, isn't there? Especially when you first go in for the first hour, say.
Yeah, it's a bit kind of like daunting. And that's like another kind of interesting point, isn't it? You can go to some places that might not be haunted at all, but it just has that certain feeling that makes you feel a bit uneasy that can almost maybe trick your mind into thinking it is haunted when it's not. So it's good to kind of consider these things.
It's the darkness as much as anything, isn't it? The fact that you can't see what might be 5 meters ahead of you, and the brain will start to create scenarios about what might be down that corridor.
And that happened to me on Halloween when they had the scare attraction there and they had actors like jumping out of the dark at you, and it got me so many times.
Yes, you obviously knew about the presence of the actors beforehand, I'm guessing.
Yeah, on that occasion it was expected, but I still jumped quite a lot.
Yeah, so that would frighten the life out of most of us, really, wouldn't it? Were
It's
they,
a thrill.
yes. Did they present as monsters or as serial killers? How were they dressed?
They were all different monsters. There was I think one of them was kind of like a clown, and then in the darkest and deepest part of the caves, there was like this weird bunny man, and when you walked in, he was just kind of like stood there staring at you, and yeah, it was just really creepy. And when I say bunny, I mean like a really, really creepy bunny, not like a nice, fluffy, cute bunny.
So have you seen the film Donnie Darko?
Yes, yeah, similar to that.
My word. And why do you think we find clowns unnerving?
I'm not sure. Like, I've never actually been that scared of clowns, so I can't tell you why people are so scared of them. I think maybe just that they can be quite in your face when they're trying to be funny. I'm not sure.
Pennywise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good example.
Yeah.
I do find Pennywise quite scary, to be fair.
Louise, can I just ask you one question?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Wistman Woods? Because that's supposed to be
No.
That's supposed to be
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I have to add it to my list. What's the kind of history there?
Well, the history is that there's supposed to be devil dogs in there. It's a portal to hell as well. So if you ever do get a chance, check it out and that.
Okay, I'm definitely adding that to my list. Thank you. I'm always looking for new places to go.
Is that the one just near Princetown?
Yeah, Dave, it is, yeah.
And that's obviously not far from where the Hairy Hands legend is as well. That area.
Yeah.
Louise, what would you say is the spookiest place you've visited?
I think it would either be Bodmin Jail, because we did a ghost tour there and just heard about all the paranormal experiences that have happened there. Or if we're talking outside of the UK, it would definitely be Zach Baggins Museum in Las Vegas. It was just filled to the brim with the most creepy objects, and really, really creepy in there.
And what else can people expect when they visit your website?
So a bit of everything, really. At the moment, I mainly kind of talk about haunted locations, and I have a few spooky city guides. So if you want to visit Nottingham or York, for example, I've like rounded up the spookiest things to do in each place. But as I said earlier, this year I'm trying to expand a little bit more into the lighter side of dark tourism. So I've just kind of done a blog post about walking a Tolkien trail in Lancashire, which is a bit kind of magical. I've also got like Burley Witch Village, so there really is something for everyone. I haven't written about it yet, but I'm hoping to start doing more content about world mysteries, conspiracy theories, and cryptids as well, which is going to be really exciting to get stuck into.
Oh, fantastic. Yes, there's lots of material for you there, isn't there?
Yeah, like world mysteries is just something that has always fascinated me. There's just so many things that I'm so frustrated that we don't have the answers for. So I could be there for like years writing content on this.
As part of our podcast, we've interviewed a few people who have an interest in cryptozoology.
That's cool.
That includes the Mothman.
I love Mothman. I've got a little keyring on my keys of Mothman. It's so random.
Also the Owlman of Morn & Smith. Hopefully we're going to have an expedition there at some point.
Oh, that's exciting. Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that.
Yeah, that should be excellent. Dave, do you have any questions at this point for Louise?
No, yeah. So I know you mentioned about Bodmin Jail and I think you said Las Vegas, the places where you felt it was quite like spooky. Or is there any sort of personal experience you've had as far as spookiness?
Yeah, I had a couple of weird experiences at the Zach Baggins Museum. So before you go in, you have to sign a waiver, and I don't know whether this is to, like, you know, protect their back or whether it's just a scare tactic, but you have to kind of basically sign to say if anything weird happens in the museum, if you get covered in scratches, if you get possessed, you basically can't go and see the museum, like you're open to it. So I was a little bit on edge before I even entered inside the museum. But yeah, there's some rooms in there that kind of like really creeped me out. There was one room which was all about Dr. Death's van, and I didn't know anything about this before. Like, well, very, 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 I'd heard of it, but I didn't know about the stories until I visited the museum, and they kind of told us a little bit about it beforehand before we entered that room, and they said you can sit this one out, you don't have to go inside if you don't want to. Because I didn't know much about it, I went in and there was just this huge van which kind of took up nearly all of the room. There's like barely any space to move, and it was just this old rusty van with, I can't remember if it had bloodstains or not, but it was just kind of really daunting to know that so many people had lost their lives in that very van. Like, I'd expected it to be, I don't know, like a steering wheel or like, you know, part of the van, but to see it all in there, it just really felt overwhelming. As soon as I walked in, I just became really overcome with emotion. I was reading the information boards along the side, and it just made me feel really, really sad to kind of know about the people that had died in that van. And it is a sad subject regardless, you know, but it just felt weird how overcome with emotion that I got as soon as I walked in. And I don't normally get like that. Like, I visit these places all the time. Obviously, I find places scary, I find places sad, but I don't get overcome with emotion. And then when I left the museum later that day and went to meet up with my friend, she asked me how it'd been, and I talked to her and I told her about that room, and I just started crying and I didn't know why. And it might have been paranormal. It might have just been the fact that it was a sad subject, and that when I walked in, they were playing sad music, and it was just kind of really unnerving to be there. But yeah, I've never kind of felt that emotional over seeing an object like that before, and I haven't since. So I did find that to be quite weird, and yeah, a bit unexplainable, I think.
Let's go back as far as like the amount of hauntings. I mean, growing up on the Guinness Book of Records, it did mention that the UK, obviously maybe because we've got history, we've obviously recorded more compared to most countries maybe. But is it still the case against, as far as the most hauntings? Is it still the UK or anywhere else taken over?
I personally think the UK's up there, but I think it's all to do with just people becoming more and more interested. Like, back in the day, you would have to find specialist books to learn about haunted places around the UK, and now everyone's talking about it online and sharing videos on TikTok and stuff. So I think it has always been the UK, and it's just the fact that we're uncovering more and more places in this digital age, really.
And as far as like recording history, is there any sort of records as far as like recorded hauntings? How far does that go back?
I think the oldest one, I'm not sure like factually if this is true, but I think the oldest one was kind of about a haunted house in Athens. This was like centuries and centuries ago. That was the oldest recorded one. But again, it's like hard to know, isn't it? You have kind of really, really old books and, you know, places that don't even exist anymore. So something has said it's haunted, it doesn't exist anymore. How are you supposed to prove whether that's true or not?
And obviously some of the hauntings that have been recorded in this country go back as far as, like, I think probably the Roman times, I think. Is there any sort of evidence of ones like, obviously we had lots of tribes and things like that. Was there any sort of indication that can go back to like ghosts that might be older?
Not that I know of. There probably is. I haven't kind of researched too much into it. I think just the one that the oldest one I know about was that one in Athens. I can't remember when that was though, really.
But in the UK, obviously you've got the Romans. That's like York and other places. Romans comes up, I think, on a few occasions. Roman soldiers and things like that. So about the UK, is that like as far as it goes back? Would you say?
I think so. Just from what I've read about kind of like Roman soldiers. I can't think of any further back than that, but there probably is somewhere if you find like a special book or something.
Okay.
Speaking of York, would you say that alongside London, that is the most haunted city in the UK? You've already suggested that you think it probably is.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been so many kind of experiences, and whether it's true or not, there are so many places in York that claim to be really haunted. For me, it's just the type of place that whether you go to seek out paranormal experiences or not, it's just so historic and, you know, filled with character that it's hard not to imagine it as being really, really haunted. And I just love that there's a Golden Fleece. So it's so famous for being haunted that it has a plaque outside listing the ghosts that haunt it, which I think is just really cool.
That's excellent, isn't it? Like a variation on the blue plaques that we have.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's have a think about, obviously, a really important time of year for anyone interested in the esoteric, Halloween.
My favourite.
What does Halloween mean to you?
Halloween it used to be kind of like a really special occasion for me. Like obviously growing up, I would dress up and go trick-or-treating. But now that I write about spooky stuff all year round, it's just kind of like another day to me. Like most days are like Halloween for me. But I find it really interesting how Halloween has seemingly expanded to be more than just one day. Like you don't just have Halloween these days, you have spooky season from September onwards, and then you have Summerween now. I think it's Asda have just come out with a Summerween range, and it just like the shops come out of Halloween decor earlier and earlier every single year, which is really interesting.
Yes, they do, don't they? And as soon as the Halloween stock goes, then it's the C word, isn't it? All the Christmas stuff.
But I have noticed some shops, like TK Maxx, for example, I love shopping for Halloween stuff. They bring the Halloween stuff out as early as, I think last year is July. And then when I was visiting to find more stuff in September, that was when they were getting rid of it and bringing in the Christmas stuff. It's like, but Halloween hasn't even happened yet. I don't know if it is just so popular that people have bought it all, but it's just getting so earlier that they're getting rid of it before Halloween happens. It's really random.
I suppose just a rush to get the Christmas things on the shelves, maybe.
Yeah. I think with like supermarkets and shopping places, it's all about kind of the money, isn't it?
Of course. So, what would be your ideal Halloween if it was on, say, a Saturday? What would you do?
I would love to spend. So I've been to Bran Castle in Romania before, which is supposedly the home of Dracula. I would love to visit there for Halloween because they have this all-out Halloween party where everyone dresses up and it's just meant to be a really spooky atmosphere. Or if I had more time, I would love to do a road trip across the US, visiting all of the scare attractions, because the UK is getting better at scare attractions, but the US is just up there. They have scare attractions that are like on movie set levels. So I'd love to travel across the US, visiting all the haunted places as well, like the historical places, all the scare attractions, and then maybe ending up in New Orleans or Salem for Halloween itself, for like either loads of like a historic wonder in Salem or like a massive Halloween party in New Orleans. That would be the absolute dream.
Sounds fantastic. What do you think the relevance of the witch is in modern day Halloween?
I think it's changed a little bit. I think, especially when it comes to like Halloween decorations and stuff, a lot of people kind of still have this idea that witches are like these evil creatures with like, green skin and massive like bulbous spots on their noses. It's like very like traditional. But then when you kind of go on TikTok, you find there's actually a really nice community. A lot of people believe that there are modern day witches and they're not evil. They're people that kind of just do maybe like morning routines to help their day go better. I think kind of traditionally, when we think of what a witch is, there was like women centuries ago that would go and pick certain leaves off of plants to help heal medicine, and people used to say that was witchcraft, but it's not. It's just people doing little routines to improve their day or help with medicine and stuff. So I think the idea of a witch has definitely changed in recent times.
Definitely. Chris, could we have a couple of questions from you?
Yeah, Louise, you're going. Excuse me, you're going on about Nottingham. You said that's got a lot of history in that. Have you had any spooky things in Nottingham so far, or no?
Not personally, but I know that the Haunted Museum, they always have a lot of experiences. I think there's a video online that you can find. They have like an old funeral carriage or something like that in the museum, and you could see the handle moving up and down by itself. And I know they always talk about, they'll come in the morning after and loads of alarms have gone off like unexplained. To me, Nottingham is one of those places like Whitby. It's very underrated. Like when you think of spooky places in the UK, you think York, London, Edinburgh, but people don't realise that Whitby and Nottingham have loads of haunted and spooky places as well. They've got like, I don't know if it's exact, but it's what's claimed to be the oldest pub in the UK as well. And that's absolutely fascinating in Nottingham. And they've got the Ghost Walk too, which is really cool. I haven't done the Ghost Walk yet. That's on my list.
Yeah, they say there's like ghosts supposed to be in Sherwood Forest as well, not far from Nottingham as well. So, have you ever been to Sherwood Forest or no?
No, but another one is on my list. I've got a map that kind of outlines all the spooky locations around the UK, and they've got a top 50 list, and Sherwood Forest is on that, and I'm trying to tick off all the locations very slowly. But I think Sherwood Forest would be a nice one to do this summer, I think.
I think when we talk about Nottingham, I think that perhaps the oldie trip to Jerusalem, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, that's the one.
Me and my friend visited there. It's quite unique. I think you can't. It's right underneath where the castle is, isn't it? So it's like one of the oldest pubs. It's completely different to any pub I've sort of been to. It seems a lot older. They've kept it as it might have been, whereas a lot of pubs have been rebuilt and changed over the years.
Yeah, and I think part of it is actually built into the caves, and you can go in and like one of the rooms just looks like a cave. It's really cool. It's really, yeah, it's unique. It's one of those places that you can just go in and have a drink and just soak up the atmosphere because it just feels really cool.
Okay, thank you for that, Louise.
That's okay.
Back to you, Lee.
Louise, if you experienced poltergeist phenomena in your house, how do you think you would feel about it?
I think I would probably scream my head off and run away really scared. I would love to see a ghost, but then I think sometimes if I did see a ghost or if I experienced something like that, I don't know how I would react, because if a ghost appeared in front of me and proved to me that there was life after death, that just opens a whole other can of worms. So yeah, if there was a poltergeist in my house, yeah, I don't know. I think I'd probably have to call the priest and do an exorcism or something. I really wouldn't know what to do with myself, despite the fact that I write about this stuff all the time. When I think about if I actually put myself in that situation, I'd be so scared. Like, I'm not a brave person at all. I'll go on paranormal investigations, but I will not stay in a haunted hotel room by myself overnight, and I do get scared really easily. So.
And it's interesting there you say that you would consider getting a priest into the property. Does that mean you are particularly religious?
I'm not religious at all. It's just what I've known, watching horror movies and reading ghost stories. I've just heard that's the way to to get rid of a pesky poltergeist. or I'll call Most Haunted.
And before we look at popular culture, may I ask what you think about UFOs?
I love the idea of UFOs. I think it's impossible to believe that there isn't life out there. It's UFOs were kind of like one of the obsessions I had really early on growing up. I was always scared that I'd see a UFO and it'd abduct me one day. Yeah, I find the whole thing absolutely fascinating. And one of my favourite days out since launching the Morbid Tourist was I went to Rendlesham Forest, which is meant to be like the UK's version of Roswell, and they have a UFO trail there. And I think it's temporarily closed at the moment because they're updating it, but you can walk around, you pick up a leaflet and you walk around and it tells you at each spot what people reported. And then you kind of like try and spot, like you don't actually see obviously like UFOs, but you can like walk around and kind of imagine what people thought and how scared they must have been when all this was going on. So yeah, I'm a massive believer in UFOs, and it's something I'd like to learn more about this year. Like I said earlier, I have heard that Wiltshire is apparently like just filled with UFO recordings and stuff like that and sightings. I'd love to kind of dive into that.
Definitely. Yes, Wiltshire is quite renowned. Of course, it's the home of the crop circle as well.
Mm-hmm.
From a few years ago. That was largely debunked, but you never know. It's always that 0.1%, isn't it, that doesn't quite seem to fit into the framework of what's been manufactured.
Yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it? I think it's always good to, there's always someone that's going to believe out there, and I think it's good to always believe.
In terms of popular culture, I'm guessing that you're a big fan of horror films.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love it and scared silly.
I was just going to ask what's special about horror films, but it is that, isn't it? It's the same reason that people go onto roller coasters. It's that adrenaline rush. It's the escapism. It's you remain safe, but at the same time you're scared. That there is a safety net there.
Yeah, you're like, these people can't, like these serial killers or ghosts can't get me through the screen, but I'm still sat there hiding behind a pillow, being almost scared to look up.
What's your favourite horror?
I think my favourite would probably be The Frighteners. I know it's kind of like a dark comedy horror as well, but if we're thinking like full-on horror, I really love Nightmare on Elm Street. I grew up watching Nightmare on Elm Street. Like my brother had me watching that when I was like 7 years old. So I think that's probably why I love horror so much today. And I really, really liked the Blair Witch Project. I love all the marketing behind that and how people were made to believe that it was a true story. And I also really, really like the original Paranormal Activity. So that for me, at least the first one, was just your classic haunted house. And I enjoyed it because it was genuinely eerie. It's, to me, that's something that could happen to you in real life. There was no blood, there was no gore. It was just scary, the idea that this could happen to anyone. And also, while I'm on that subject, The Fourth Kind, that was really good because it was all about, I think like the tagline was, nobody knows what happens to you when you're asleep, and they all revealed about kind of aliens abducting people while they were asleep. And me being a believer, that absolutely petrified me because I definitely thought that could happen to me.
Alien abductions, that is particularly disturbing, isn't it, when you think about it?
So disturbing.
The idea of these entities coming into your house and then into your room at night, taking you away and experimenting on you is kind of thing that really does give you the heebie-jeebies, isn't it?
Especially if you never know what's going on. Like, it could be happening to anyone and they just might not ever know.
Have you looked at time slips on the Morbid Tourist?
I haven't in detail. I know what they are. I think some of the most famous ones in the UK, I believe, happened in Liverpool. but I haven't kind of dived into it properly. It is something I would like to know more about. I know some people believe that ghosts don't exist and it's actually more to do with a time slip, and that could be the explanation. But yeah, I would love to learn more about them.
Chris, could we have 1 or 2 questions from you?
Yes, Louise, you know you're going on about Bodmin Jail and it's the most haunted. Have you had any experiences of like really bad hauntings? Has anyone that you know that's had bad experiences with Bodmin Jail or no?
No, not really. When I went and did the ghost tour, we did have like flickering lights that were unexplained. And they told us about some experiences that the staff had spoken about. That's kind of like why I like Bodmin Jail. The staff are kind of really open-minded, but they were so careful to debunk things if nothing actually happened. But one story that did like stand out to me is how they've got like obviously the original hanging pit there, and they've gone in like some mornings to find the bells ringing in there, and it will be before it's kind of open to the public, and you can't actually access the bells, like they're behind this like sectioned off area. But when they do hear them ringing, it's always good. It's always been on that anniversary of someone's execution. So that was a story that really stuck with me. So although it didn't happen to someone I know, that is one that kind of I always like remember when I think of Bodmin Jail.
And what about any in like Yorkshire or Nottingham? Have you had any bad experiences in there, or good experiences, or have you seen anything?
No, unfortunately not. Like, I'm very open-minded. I would like to. I do think I need to start taking it a bit more seriously because I like to visit places and learn about the history and the stories. And I will go on like an investigation if I'm invited, but I don't really kind of like go to places and stay overnight and do my own investigations, which I probably should start doing. I need to start getting all the equipment and stuff. But I think I've always been too scared to do it alone. So maybe I just need to investigate more and I'll finally have an experience.
Yeah. Another thing about the Stonehenge issue, they, like I said before, they did say aliens moved the rocks. Do you believe in that, or do you believe it was done by humans?
I don't necessarily believe it in this instance. But it could be possible. I mean, those stones are absolutely massive. Like, have you guys been to Stonehenge?
No, I haven't. It's just that with the experience that you've been, I just thought, it's very, picking up a stone, like, the man's trying to pick up a stone, he's not going to lift it. So I thought maybe it's like it could have been aliens that did it. You know what I mean? It's very weird how they say that humans actually picked it up and placed it on our ancestors. So I don't know. That's it's a very serious question answer to find out, and that how it happens.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine how humans would have done it. I don't think that's been explained yet. So it probably would make sense. I mean, some people believe that the aliens built the pyramids as well. So yeah, I don't know how the humans did it. So it's definitely possible.
Okay, thank you, Louise. Back to you, Lee.
Okay, we've got just over 5 minutes left. Before I ask Dave for a couple of further questions, what's your views on ESP?
Is that like the electronic? Is it when you have the it's like a little radio, isn't it? And it brings out white noise. And is that when you hear voices through that?
Oh yes. So perhaps you can't hear me very well. That's EVP.
Oh, okay. So what's ESP then? Remind me again.
The extrasensory perception, whereby using your mind, you might be able to sense what's happening in the next room.
Oh, okay. I'm not really sure. I think it's very interesting. I've read about kind of examples where people have demonstrated that it's worked. It's not something I really kind of experimented with myself, to be fair.
And going back to EVP, there's a film at the moment called Undertone, something that I'm going to try to see. But I've always found that very creepy whenever there's been a recording taking place in a possibly haunted location, and then playing that back. And this is often seen in cinema, and you hear voices. That's incredibly creepy. would you agree that sometimes that's the human mind trying to make sense of a nonsense noise by creating the words? It's trying to make sense of what is actually not words at all.
Yeah, I think like as humans, we do that a lot. Like I think there have been examples where real voices have come through, but I've watched kind of ghost shows in the past where you'll hear mumbling and they'll put a word up like on the subtitles and say this is what the spirit has said. And I'll look at it and I'll be like, well, I don't hear that at all. Or that sometimes it's mumbling and because you're reading the word, you think that's what it says when it's not. So I think there definitely have been examples. It has come through, but I think a lot of the time it is people just trying to make sense of it. But I find it really interesting when then what's come through has been it makes sense in terms of it's answering a question, and that's when it's like, oh, but that does make sense, you know. How can you explain that when you've asked, I don't know, like a ghost's name and then a name comes through? You can't explain that.
No, maybe that is the 0.1%.
Yeah.
Dave, could we have your final questions for Louise, please?
Yeah, so I mean, I know you spoke about some your own spooky experiences and that, but as far as like what you found interesting or your favourite places, is there any particular place you haven't talked about that you sort of found quite interesting? You recommend?
Not as of yet. I do try to get into the habit of if I visit somewhere, I try and like write about it as soon as possible because if I don't, it'll just go like years and years and I'll forget to write about it. But there are like some places like Edinburgh, for example. I'm absolutely desperate. Like I've been there once when like years and years and years ago, and that's like just to a gig. But that's somewhere I'm desperate to go to because I think there'd be so much fascinating stuff to share about Edinburgh, and Chester as well. I've heard so many good things about Chester, and I'd really like to go there.
Yeah, I've been to Edinburgh a few times. It's one of my favourite cities.
Oh, is
Mostly
it?
quite for drinking, but I have actually first time I went, I think it was in 1989. I did go inside the castle, and that was quite a good experience. And there I do like old castle. Sometimes it does cost a bit. When me and Lee have done a few castle trips and things like that. But, also, when we were talking about earlier UFOs and unexplained phenomena, time slips, do you believe in like possible like dimensions?
I think so. I think there's just so much that we don't know about this world that anything is possible. But from what I've read about kind of in the past, I definitely think it's possible. Like you think about kind of like the butterfly effect and like the theory of like the burnt toast theory, like if you're running late for work and your toast burns and then you realize that if you'd left on time you would have been in this horrible car crash. And I think there's definitely kind of that theory that maybe a version of you somewhere did go and end up in that car crash, and all these decisions you make, you kind of think about how your life can branch off in so many different directions. So yeah, I definitely think it's like possible. Yeah.
So that's most relating to like parallel universes, but you obviously you've got that concept, but actual another universe which is spiritual as well, or aliens or something like that might be able to use that for travel. I don't know, wormholes or something like that.
Yeah, or you get people kind of talking about deja vu, and some people believe that deja vu is either an example of a past life or different parallel universes, versions of yourself like crossing for a moment.
Thank you.
Yes, the doppelganger phenomenon. Yeah, that's another very strange one, isn't it? That we've all got a duplicate of ourselves wandering around.
Yeah, some of us are famous, but not actually. Ones of ourselves.
But you
It's
never
so
see
weird because I didn't even think about that. There's just so many like world mysteries, UFOs, doppelgangers, cryptids. Like you could just go on forever. There's just so much unexplained stuff that it's just so fascinating to learn about and think about.
Well, your website is certainly a good place to go to learn about all of those things and where you might find them.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been an amazing passion project, and I'm very proud of it, and I can't wait to keep growing it forever.
Have you chosen what your next destination will be?
Yes, I think it has to be Chester. Yeah, it's just because Chester is just filled with so much history, and it's similar to York in that you've got like the Roman walls that you could walk along, and it's not too far from me. I think it's like a couple of hours drive, so I think I need to get that next ticked off. And I really want to do I can't remember what it's called now. Cannock Chase this summer as well. I'd love to go, hopefully camping there for like a few days and see if I experience anything weird there.
So looking up to the sky at night.
Yes.
Louise Joy, thank you very much for being such an excellent and entertaining guest.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been really interesting and fun.
My name's Lee, and saying goodbye. Also saying goodbye is Chris.
Bye.
And Dave.
Goodbye.
And Louise.
Bye, thanks guys.
Thank you for joining us once again, and please remember to like and subscribe. We'll see you again on the Shadowcast.